We find ourselves in a charged moment in sacred time. Just days ago, we sat low to the ground. Jews around the world fasted. We wept. We read the words of lamentation and dwelled in destruction. Now the calendar shifts. The prophet speaks, Nachamu, Nachamu Ami, be comforted. Be comforted, my people, says your God. Our tradition has beautiful rhythm. It moves us from grief into comfort. 3 weeks of mourning become 7 weeks of consolation. Built into the structure is the recognition that turning towards healing takes time. It takes more time to destroy than it does to mend, to process the grief. But what if that turning feels distant? What do we do when the call to comfort feels dissonant, as it does for many of us this year? Because the devastation hasn't passed. We ache with the knowledge that so many lives have been shattered. We struggle to speak across ruptured relationships. Conversations break apart mid-sentence. Sometimes we don't even know why. Words that once built bridges now feel like traps. Familiar categories of justice, peoplehood, solidarity, safety feel elusive, less stable than before. For some of us, it feels like old frameworks have collapsed entirely. And in their place, there's fear, disorientation, anger, shame, loneliness. Even in community, many of us can feel alone. We don't always know what is speakable, what is welcome. Some voices go silent, others cry out, and beneath it all, the pain doesn't move on just because the liturgy has. But the tradition doesn't ask us to leap. It invites us to walk slowly, tenderly. It stretches the turning out over time. We move from the narrowness of mourning into the long spiral of comfort. 7 weeks, a season. Like I said, the ratio itself holds wisdom. More than twice as long to find the consolation. Destruction can come in a moment, but consolation, repair, integration, these take time. The calendar understands what the heart knows, that grief doesn't dissolve when the fast ends. Comfort is not a single gesture, but a process. A movement through presence, a gradual reorientation, a return to what is essential. It's not instant. The shift is not linear, but it spirals and loops and falters. And still, the liturgy invites us to just begin. Not away from grief, but through it, toward renewal, toward what might come next. The threshold of the new year, 7 weeks away. And right at the beginning of the long spiral of comfort, our tradition gives us a guide. The prophet Isaiah. The Haftarah, which we will read tomorrow, gives us a way into this process. The words of comfort in this Haftarah arise in the aftermath of cataclysm. Jerusalem is lying in ruins. The temple is destroyed. The familiar foundations of Jewish life, of kingship, sacrifice, homeland have collapsed. And in the face of such devastation, it's hard to imagine what kind of comfort could possibly be spoken. And indeed, when Isaiah is commanded by God to call out, we see something unusual. His first response is not certainty. He pauses and asks God in return, Ma ekra, what shall I call out? That question itself becomes a turning point. Not away from the grief, but into it. A voice says, call out, and I said, what shall I call? All flesh is grass, is the response. And all its grass is grace like the wild flowers in the field. Grass withers, the flower fades. When the breath of Havaya blows upon it. Yes, the people is grass. The grass withers, the flower fades, but the word of God stands forever. It's halting. This moment resists easy clarity. The prophet is commanded to speak, but his first response is, what do I say? But this pause shows a prophetic willingness of Isaiah to dwell in not knowing, to listen before speaking. And what comes in response is not what we might expect from a message of comfort. It doesn't appear to offer reassurance. It speaks instead of fragility. Kol habasar chatzir, all flesh is grass. Our lives are brief, like wild flowers blowing in the field. But the breath that passes over that field is not a destructive force. This is the breath of God. This is the breath that gave and gives life in each moment. The way I read it, the verse is not contrasting life and death as absolutes, but invites us into the paradox of being human. We are fleeting and filled with sacred breath. In relation to the eternal one, our lives are but a flash, and yet what gives us life shows that a piece of us is connected to the eternal. It's grounding through truth. The truth that we are alive, but for a moment. That our lives are beautiful because they are impermanent. That even in our fragility, we are animated by something larger, the divine breath that flows through all being, the presence that sustains us even when nothing else holds. Ma ekra, what shall I call? The prophet's question becomes the teaching. A model of leadership that begins with humility, with the courage to pause, to face reality. What is, with honesty and compassion. It requires deep compassion for ourselves, for each other, and then to call us back to what is most real. In our moment, the prophet's question might sound like this: how do I live with the truth of my own fragility and still stay open to the world's beauty? How do I speak the truth without hardening into certainty or silence? How do I stay present to what is unfolding around me without turning away from what is unfolding within me? Or how do I return to my breath, to life itself, when so much feels broken and there is so much loss of life around? This is where consolation begins, not in clear resolution, but in reverence and presence, a comfort that arises when we face what is gently and truthfully. Just recently reading an essay that was just published in the Sources, a Jewish journal of ideas from the Shalom Hartman Institute by Naama Levitz Applebaum, teacher of mine, a Jerusalem-based rabbi and educator. The essay is entitled An Invitation to Rise from Our Communal Mourning. She writes that in the wake of immense collective grief and rupture, She asks, how can I rise from the floor of mourning? And how can I pray again? And in this piece, she invites us into a practice of spiritual reorientation, a way to begin again when the world feels like it's unraveling. I found it really resonant and wanted to mention these 4 steps that she suggests for this moment in Jewish time. Feeling our feet on the ground, letting ourselves be held by the earth, allowing gravity to carry what we can't. Reattuning to the breath of life. Remembering what matters most. In this moment, what do you truly cherish? What do you know is sacred? And moving in the direction of that value, not with a manifesto, but with a gesture, a word, a blessing, a choice, choosing again and again to turn towards what we know has enduring value. The second half of what we sang just now comes again from the beginning of the Haftarah. Kol koreh bamidbar, a voice cries out from the wilderness, Panu derech havaya. It's like to leave us with the thought, if we are all doing this work of orienting ourselves in our truth, in our breath, with honesty and humility and compassion, reorienting again and again on what is most valuable, what are our deepest values, and then we come together as a sacred community, we can begin to face and discern what might be the path to God, even if we don't see yet what the path is forward. As a sacred, intentional community, to come together and make the path by walking it one step at a time. So in the spirit of our prophet Yeshayahu, I want to offer us the blessing this Shabbat, that we can continue to honor the grief that is in our hearts and also begin that turning towards the possibility of renewal, towards the spacious path of Havaya, and the possibility of building new structures even as the destruction might still be around us. And to see together what is possible. Shabbat Shalom.